Well, says it's streaming. Let's take a look and see whether it is. Since it's not showing me my stream, I presume that I'm streaming. Alright, let's post to Twitch. Twitter. Streaming new instruction prototype. Come it. Game dev. Tweet. Alright. Well, I'm not actually going to be doing too much today because we have entered the prototype stage. And everyone should be trying out my new prototype here. Which apparently, not sure whether or not the stream will catch it. Let's wait for the stream to catch up and see. Okay, so the stream does catch it. That's fine. It cuts off a little bit at the bottom, but that's fine. So this is the new ship construction prototype, and it should work. Everyone should be able to play it and do whatever they'd like to do. I included some ships for you. Some of them have some damage from being a little bit outdated, but overall, they are kind of nice. I kind of like them. This is available to all of you, so go ahead and tell me whether or not it works on your computer. Well, that was exciting. Maybe I should just go take a nap. I'm actually a little bit tired because it's a little bit tiring to think about putting something new out. It's been like, what, 200 days? It's more than long enough. But this should be a pretty good setup. It's got all the parts that I've built and that sort of stuff. Next step is to create a UI that will pop up over each of these objects and tell you what the state of the object is, as well as the overall state of the ship, which is what I'll do if I don't get into a really great conversation with bunches of people whether or not the system works at all. For now, let's go ahead and start up ship because I wanted to test one thing. Because I created some of these 2-meter objects, but I never thought about the fact that they would get put inside if you wanted to put inside like this. I was wondering what it looked like. Okay, so they actually look fine. That means that you can have these things inside of the other things and they'll actually look pretty good. That's not a problem. The way that the decay systems work and the damage system means that when you do something like this, you'll be taking a lot faster decay and more damage when you get hit. So it's often better to create a splayed out ship. But overall, it's kind of a fun thing to do. Let's see what other things look like. Radio dish. Now, radio dish is one of the things that you wouldn't be able to put inside like this. It has to have a clear view of the sky or it will not work properly, obviously. Still, that does look kind of neat. Hmm. Trying out some random stuff for kicks. And Evil Luigi says, how do I always manage to be not at home when you're streaming? Well, since I am streaming at the same time every week, I presume that you have an actual appointment that you have to keep. So here in this debug version, we're going to go ahead and hide the help. Now that I think about it, though, I'm not 100% sure. Oh, it's the panel. That's the wrong button. Wrong thing to hide. It's not this that gets hidden. Panel side here. Alright. But this to there. That should work. So I was a little bit interested in the fact that this is a super bright set of panes in here in the in this system in play mode, but when I export the build, in the build they're barely visible. It's really interesting. Evil Luigi says, I do not have an appointment in the actual sense. He's working in local hackerspace. Not a bad thing to have, not a bad thing to be doing. Certainly as interesting as anything I'm doing. Although, if you're stuck at the hackerspace, you could always download the new demo if you have a Windows machine in the area. See whether or not any of the folks there can build decent starships and see if it runs. That's kind of what I need this week. I need everybody to tell me whether or not the thing I built runs. I'm also going to be creating some pop-ups for the various components so that when the user wants to see the information about the ship, they'll get some nice, cute pop-ups. The problem is, I have to decide how to do that. Don't really know the best way to handle it. In theory, I can build for Linux and for Mac, but in practice, I forgot to download those. They're separate downloads, and I don't really feel like going and re-downloading everything at the last second and trying to get it to work, especially since this beta is a little bit buggy. So let's think about pop-ups. Obviously, we're going to want to have it be another version. Yeah, Jojo Jet, I'd say you probably do. You certainly don't have to worry about my income due to ads. I don't make any income due to ads, and I never will. But Twitch is really obnoxious about ads to the point where it will show me ads for my own stream and prevent me from seeing whether or not it's actually running. Hey, Erdroy. So, just so everyone is aware, I released a new prototype. That's the new prototype. And if you've got a moment, you should go play it and make sure that it works and tell me if it works or not. And what I'm going to be doing is creating another one of these controllers for our newest need, which is to display data, display resources. And now that I think about it, there's actually a couple of easy ways to do it. Because I can just display the various interfaces. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So the ship construction control descends from player control. Let's go ahead and open player control up. Close all the rest. It's been a while since I've used player control, so I just kind of remind myself about it here. Yeah, this seems fine. Let's go ahead and create a new player control, which is going to be a ship resource control. And the ship resource control is going to be of type player control. No, I know, shocking. So the idea is that when you hit this, it will pop up all sorts of overlays for the various parts of the ship. You'll be able to see what sort of resources are happening where. Now, when we look at the various parts of the ship, let's go ahead and load in a ship just to take a quick look. And Z, that's fine. It's amazing how much slower it is in debug mode. It's fine. So this ship, the idea is we would hit 3, and we would get pop-ups telling us the state of all of these objects. Now, if we look at all of these objects, they are ship components with various mix-ins added. Now, some of these mix-ins aren't active yet. For example, the heavy ion thruster doesn't have an engine mix-in set up for it yet. But the resources do. And the thing about these mix-ins is they all descend from a variety of interfaces. Or they should. Mix-in resource stockpile should descend from interface. Oh, have I not done that properly with this version yet? Properly. Only one the iMation roster. Hilarious. So we'll have to create the interfaces that we need in order to get this to work, and that's fine. Those interfaces are part of the joy. I think a reason I held off is because I wasn't sure if I wanted them to be interfaces. You can't drag and drop an interface in the scene view is the problem. So they all have to be done programmatically. Still, it's time for us to get those interfaces bumping. Now let's take a look. There. Seems like everything's still running. Interfaces. So, C# script. Let's create an iResource. It's not really a resource state, it's a resource. I guess a resource state is fine. Now, the problem with these interfaces is it's a little bit difficult to know ahead of time exactly what we want to do with them. So, for example, I've just created an iResource state interface, but what do I do with it? I'm obviously planning to use it as a way to go and find all the ship mix-ins that have a resource. Now, there's already a variety of resource mix-ins here. The trickle required, the stockpile, the exchanger, the drain. And this is just the first iteration of resources. There's also resource objects or non-resource objects like togglables, breakables. So the idea is that we'll be able to take these interfaces and use them as a method of display. The other option, of course, is that we can take these interfaces, just make the display against the individual mix-ins. Problem with that approach is that it means that your mix-ins have to be pretty static. You can't have varieties of mix-ins. And that means that, for example, if we were going to do a search for the resources on the ship, we would have to do a search specifically for mix-in resource stockpile and mix-in resource exchanger and so on, rather than just a mix-in setup, or rather than just an interface that covers those things. So for extendability, it's better to use interfaces. Let's see. Erdroy says, does the part highlighting selection work properly? Because I have some problems with selecting parts. Right now, all of the parts have boxes rather than mesh colliders. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. But you should be able to select items if you can get at their box collider. It might be easier to move whatever's interfering. Jojo Jet says, is the part rotation relative to the camera? Yeah, there is the part rotation is relative to the camera. It's probably still wonky. I probably have to work it out some. Jojo Jet says it would be really handy if there was a Blender-esque camera orbit mode. I tried the camera orbit mode and it just felt so awful. It just I couldn't get it to work well. But you're certainly not the only person to request it, so I might want to put it back in. The problem is that you don't know what you're trying to rotate around. rotating around the center of the ship is really not ideal. So how do you select the new location? I guess I could do something like, um, actually, I don't know how I would let you select things without accidentally picking them up or switching into mode. I could let right click be select to new center, but then the problem is you can't enter FPS mode. Not with right clicking. Do middle mouse click, but not everyone has a middle mouse click. The worst thing about the FPS controls for me is the fact that the vertical movement is, well, this vertical movement here is something that's absolutely critical to actually creating a ship. That's why orbit mode is so nice. But it's not integrated into FPS because obviously there are very few FPS games where you can just do this. Jojo says hold shift and middle click to drag, move your center like in Blender. Yeah, that's what I was doing, but A, middle click is not something everyone has. B, you can't tell where your center is. And that's a big problem that a lot of people have with Blender. The center is it's hard to tell how far you are from the center and where the center is. And so to get around that, in order to use Blender, you constantly have to be hitting Shift C to reset your center and your cursor, or hitting period a bunch to recenter your center, because otherwise you end up like rotating around some point way over there, and you're like, I can't see anything. And that I think is one of the biggest reasons that Blender is often considered unpopular and have bad, is said to have a bad interface, specifically because of that. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how it feels to me. That's what I always get annoyed with when I'm using Blender. Using Jojo just says that a bad orbit mode would be better than no orbit mode. Well, that's the opposite opinion I had, but I mean, I'm certainly willing to give it a shot. There's no way I'm going to be implementing it right now, but I can certainly implement it the next time I release a version. It might be in a week. Oh, it's upside down. I was wondering why things look so weird. And, self straight. Right now, the rotation controls are sometimes reversed, which is something I'd like to try and figure out. It's obviously reversed rotation. It's awkward. In Blender, you can emulate middle clicking by alt and left clicking. Yeah, that's not exactly as easy as just right clicking. Blender is not a very good interface for most people. Most people hate Blender and can't figure out how to get it to work. So trying to tell me that something should be like Blender isn't going to help your case at all. Although I'm not against the idea of using orbital cameras or something similar. It's just that Blender is almost unusable. So. And now I'm having a hard time with my rotation. I wasn't. Now that I'm on camera, I keep screwing it up. That's interesting. Oh, no, I found the flaw that I couldn't replicate. I replicated it. Great! That explains it. Apparently, if you're at exactly 45 degrees, things can go stupid wrong. Which is interesting. I'll have to try and figure that out and fix it up later. Iridroy says the render is forward at DX11, right? I think so. But I'm not doing anything that needs to have special rendering, so I'll probably switch it out for deferred later on. It might even already be deferred. I can't remember. I can check though. That's something that is easy to check. I think. Is that under quality? I think it's under. It's not under. It's under. It's under. Well, it says that it's forward. So it must be forward. But where is my ability to change it? Hmm. This is interesting. I'm not sure why. I always have a hard time finding this setting, regardless of how many times I do find it. I almost inevitably start to just look it up and try and figure out what the hell it is. Because it's never obvious. I mean, why would you ever want it to be? There it is. So no, that's linear color space. That's not the same thing at all. Jojo Jet says, "Have you thought of having a gizmo pop up when you click a part to allow you to rotate and move it like in Unity?" Um, I thought about it, but I'm not sure that. I'm trying to think of the fastest way to build a ship, and the fastest way to build a ship has always been to me point and click. I like the ability to just point and click. So I'd like to try and push the player to be able to point and click to quickly build a ship that they would like to build. So rather than click and then move and then click and then drag and then click and then drag and then click and then drag, I want the player to go, oh yeah, here. Oh, I want it right down here. Because the idea is that the player will be able to very rapidly build these ships, and having a whole bunch of pop-ups, you click and then you drag and then you drag and then you click, seems like it would slow things down. But I'm not sure yet. This is all very early on in the prototype stage. Obviously, the actual interface is going to need more adjusting. I just don't like the idea of introducing a delay so that in order to do anything, they have to click on something and then click to incrementally change it. If we're going to do it like that, it might as well be a control, like, an Xbox One controller. In Planet Coaster, the building is point and click, but to be really precise, you can bring up a key to bring up those gizmos. The last roller coaster game I played, it was really, really awkward to try and build a roller coaster. And that was one of the reasons why I went with this idea of the fast pointing and clicking. The more modes you add, the more difficult it is for advanced users to use it quickly. So it's always a balance here. Do we dumb it way, way down? Or do we give it an advanced mode? Or do we just kind of let people struggle? There's a lot of questions in my mind. Mm. To me, the only real difficulties in this setup are first the direction of the rotation, which I think is something I can polish. I don't have to have it be bad. It's bad at the moment because I haven't figured out the right combination of things for it to do. But the other thing that I don't like is the verticality. Having to change the floor plane is a substantial difficulty in terms of trying to figure out where things are. The problem is that not having a floor plane makes it very, very hard to place items, and that's especially true when you're not depending on snap-together objects. Um, Having a widget where you can drag parts up and down seems like a good solution, except, well, if, for example, if I were to put on a hydrogen tank here, and I could say, okay, well, I want this to be on top of the object, like, here. When I drag it up there using interface like that, and then I duplicate it and move it around with the mouse, what's it gonna do? Is it going to use itself as the same z-axis, automatically floor itself to that location? It's not a bad idea. Jojo Jet says I should check out Planet Coaster. The whole thing about the coaster games is they're always so hard to build with that it's almost never fun. But because you say to, I'll go ahead and check it out. So right now, there are only a couple of people trying this, and I think Jojo Jet is the only one that's actually said anything about whether or not it can be used. Erdroy says that the highlighting is bad, and I think that's because I'm using box gliders for everything, which is a mistake, I think. I was going to try and keep it real simple, because mesh colliders are a little bit expensive, but if it's interfering with people actually using it, then obviously that's no good. Yeah, see the box collider in action here? I'm trying to think. The reason I'm silent is because right now I'm trying to think about the best way to do an orbital camera. Fundamentally, the issue is that the center of the orbital camera was almost impossible to figure out, and that's definitely a problem that I frequently see in Blender and other places like that. But if your orbital camera worked by you right-clicking and then dragging, then what you could do is you could set it up so that if you right-clicked on something, like this, how it's highlighted, if I were to right-click and move, I could orbit around whatever was highlighted rather than the established center point. And because of that, the established center point would always be in the center of one of your items. That doesn't seem like a bad idea. I kind of like it. Trying to think of these things is fun. So I'm glad for feedback. Feel free to tell me what you have a hard time with or what you have an easy time with, and I'll polish it up for next time, because that's kind of the point. But if that's the case, then the thing I was going to work on is not what I'm going to be working on today. Do that stuff later. The Jojo Jet says, is there a way to turn off part symmetry? Not yet. There will be. There's no reason not to have that, but I just didn't put it in yet. I'm not getting a preview of the part on the ship component menu. I haven't made the icons for them yet. I haven't decided on the best way to make the icons for them, so there are no icons for them. Tinker says, hey, what's new? I just got in. What's new is I have a construction prototype, and you can go play it and tell me if it works and what you think is bad. Well, if you have a Windows machine. If you don't have a Windows machine, you're shit out of luck, because the beta version of Unity that I downloaded didn't come with the ability to build for anything other than Windows. Yay. So I like the idea of having the camera orbit around whatever you've clicked on, or right-clicked on, whatever you've got highlighted. I think that that's a really powerful idea, and I think it'll work great. All I have to do is program it. The problem is that the highlighting doesn't have any interaction with the camera control at the moment. So I'd have to build a method to get the camera control to understand what's been highlighted. I could do either via a manual setup or by having the camera control look for the highlighted object on the controller, which I could do if I wanted to use an interface. Jojo just says it's hard to tell where you are. Yeah, I actually don't even think I have a background at this point. I disabled all the music and all the background, um, and that's definitely something that I should undisable. But I wanted to just get this out and be super basic. Plus, if I'm going to be changing the first person mode to work it out first. All right, let's try charging. Let's try programming up the orbital camera. Yeah, how this orbital camera is supposed to work. Right now we've got a camera first person and a camera pivot. I'm going to create a camera control highlighted orbit. Jojo just leaving. Zargi says an option for field of view would probably be a good idea. Yep, didn't occur to me, but it wouldn't be a bad idea and it would be pretty easy to implement. Let me write that down. So, I'm going to go over here. This camera control, place it with the new highlight orbit control, which currently does nothing, but we're going to change that. As a camera control schema. By the way, let me know whether or not my voice is cutting in and out. I'm not 100% sure, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Voicemeeter is actively screwing up my audio to try and get me to donate, but that's going to have the opposite effect because if they can't be relied on to actually deliver my audio, then I'm not going to be donating jack shit. So hopefully you haven't heard any problems. Yeah, Zargi, I expect you can hear me, but if you hear like half of a word drop out, that's what I'm thinking, because two of my takes for the release video were destroyed by random word dropouts, and the only chain in this link that's acting strange is Voicemeeter. Matacon says, so Civ 6, nope, this is not Civ 6. I'm surprised you could make that mistake, Matacon. They don't look very similar. But I don't think Civ 6 is out yet. I think it's still quite a ways off. So, if we take a look at our, we take a look at our camera control schema, it's got this manual camera update if you are using the cam control button, which happens to be, I think, the right mouse cursor. So this is where we were going to go. So override this. Now we're being passed a target transform, but here's the thing. Our target transform is going to be the ship. What we really want to have is the highlighted object. So we're going to be looking for the various things that can highlight an object. There are a couple of ways to go about this. One is that we could make that highlighted object call a static thing on another object, or another class rather, or we can just go looking for the master of this object. So we are currently attached to an object, and that object should have a controller on it or above it. which has our what we need. So we'll just grab player control parent. Let's go ahead and do this during awake, huh? Or up here. Protected player control parent. Protected player control parent. Get if parent equals null, then parent equals get component in parent control. Return. I don't have any thoughts on Civ 6, Matacon. I'll probably play it, but don't have any thoughts on it. Jojo just says, how come you're naming your classes with the convention of X, Y instead of using namespaces? That's because this Unity doesn't support interfaces very well. So what I really want is a highlighted orbit that descends from an interface. But because of the way that that Unity doesn't really do interfaces worth a damn, I started to just stick that in there. But you're right, it would be better as a namespace. I just didn't think of that. Let me write that down. But I thought you were leaving. You're not left. So if we get the parent here, we'll say if parent equals null, debug.log error, no parent for highlighted orbit camera schema. Return. If we do have a parent, what we'd like to do is get the highlighted object from the parent. We want to get the highlighted object from the parent if possible. And to do that, there are only a couple kinds of player controls that have a highlighted object we can grab. And we might as well just list them all, although it would be better to use an interface. God damn it. It would be better to use an interface, but I'm just never sure. You know what would even be better is this seeking is not really a great idea. Let's not do it like this. So we've got two options. We can either use the interface, in which case we've got to track it down like listed, or we can not use the interface and assign it in the control, which we're going to do there. So there we are. Now we're going to manually set the parent. And what we're going to do is cast the parent to a couple of different types of player control that may have the class we're looking for. It would really be best if this was an interface, wouldn't it? God damn it. Fine, I'm making it an interface. Otherwise, I'll regret it later. Highlighter. So what we're going to do for our iHighlighter interface is we're going to have a game object that gets highlighted. Or is it a game object? Let me just take a look. So the highlighter is not what we're looking for. We're looking for the highlighted object, highlighted component. So if we pop this up, I believe that highlighted component is considered a ship component proper. But what we can do is have it as a transform is all we need. So let's go ahead and make it a transform. Transform highlight. Now the problem here is, did I misunderstand something? I've probably forgotten how to use interfaces because it's been too long. Interfaces cannot. Oh, that's right. the needs to be a function. Wasn't there a way to make interfaces allow getters and setters? Man, it's been too long since I've done this. C# interface getter and setter. This guy recommends using the new keyword a lot. It's fine. There we are. That'll do, I think. So let's go ahead and set up our ship construction control to descend from that, which I believe is just a comma, a highlighter. Now we have to implement the highlighted object here. If we look for highlighted, there isn't anything that instantly pops out at us, but that's fine, because what we really want to do is say public transform highlighted. Get return highlighted component.transform. Except it may not have a highlighted component. So if highlighted component equals null, then we want to return target, right? Or maybe the cursor, maybe the ship.transform. Yep, JojoJet, you're right. I can just do get set. Except I don't even want to do it like this. I want to return a null. And the reason is because I don't want us moving if our highlighted component is empty. I'd like to continue to use the same route as we did before. Does not implement highlighted.get. What did I just implement? Highlighted. There we are. So there's a lot of random stuff going on here because of the beta not interpreting anything correctly. And now I can't get back to the values. Darn it. So anyhow, what we're going to do is over here in the highlighted orbit stuff, we're going to be finding the eye highlighter as our parent. So we want to cast our parent to an eye highlighter. And I can't remember if this is the way that breaks or doesn't break. Casting something as versus casting something with a prefix. I think I want to do it the other way around. With the idea being that we don't want this to break. Parent for highlighted orbit camera schema. Name, not an eye highlighter. Turn. So now that we've got something which is a proper highlighted object, so protected transform target, or we'll call it focus. Target's fine. Nope, focus is better. Because target is actually already used, I believe, by the camera control schema, right? Oh, no, there's not. Okay, so we can use target. I don't know if any of you haven't played it yet, but or haven't used it yet, but you should go over and try the prototype that I made. Let me know if it works or not works, and if it does work, tell me what you like and dislike about it so that I can polish it, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm actually polishing the camera. I'm going to try and create an orbital camera after people complained that it should be an orbital camera. So here we're going to say if if.highlighted does not equal null, then target equals if.highlighted. And now what we can do is we can rotate around that highlight. So one of the things that we kind of want to do is this camera control schema should probably only update the highlighted when we first click. So if input.getAxis, I'll get button down, and then we use the cam control button. Then we want to potentially change highlights. Otherwise, we'll just leave it. So only update our target when the control button is first clicked, not every frame. And otherwise, we'll want to get the horizontal and vertical elements. So float x equals input.getAxis mouse x, and float y equals input.getAxis mouse y. And we'll want to rotate around our axis here. So the problem with this setup is that the camera up is always annoying, and it's hard for me to know when camera up is going to be seriously problematic. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and brute force it for now. So our camera control schema, we want to have the camera on a stick. And we're going to be using the transform of the camera on the stick and rotating it around our, so transform t equals camera on a stick t dot rotate around, or just rotate. And we'll want to set up an axis, so vector 3 dot up, comma, how much do we want to rotate? X. And we're going to also want to rotate via space dot local. So if x does not equal null, or x does not equal 0, do that. If y does not equal 0, 3 dot right. But we're not. We'll have to fix the XY sensitivity stuff that we to do. Fix XY sensitivity things. So then what we need to do is we need to set the camera up so that up is up, which is gonna have to be t dot rotation equal t dot rotation dot look at, no, t dot look at, t dot position plus t dot forward, comma vector 3 dot up. Shall we see whether this works? So there's a number of warnings. This is the one I'm concerned about. Oh, it's marked as virtual. Interesting. So, all right. These are all things I can't do shit about, unfortunately. They are actually parts of the default image editor crap. I can delete the color lookup editor, I suppose. Color correction lookup editor. Let's go ahead and do that. Unless it's on a camera. Is it on a camera right now? Is that why it's whining? No color correction. No color correction. Color correction and no color correction. So let's just go ahead and delete that script. Boom. motion blur and post effect base are also screwing up a little bit, but that's much less obnoxious. All right. So now we've done a couple of small details, and it looks like I have lost my entire audience by fuddling around. That's okay. I actually have more audience members than the little red icon says I do. That's kind of odd. Don't know what that little red icon means, I suppose. Okay, so if you don't tell me what you like or dislike, then I can't fix it, just so you're aware. But right now I'm working on a better camera. Cross my fingers. The camera range is marked at 50. Right now, our camera on a stick is actively not at the correct range. I could lerp it to the correct range, just force it. We'll just force it for now. So, right now we can't move at all. I forgot to put in a mark. So, debug.log orbit cam call. I think that I need to make it so that we... There we are. Yeah, Zargi, that is the biggest problem right now because I don't have any sort of UI telling you what's going on. But it's supposed to be... no, I haven't got the mirror disabled yet, but that's been a request several times now, so... That's obviously something that I should put in. But right now, the ships can be made complete. You technically have all the parts you need. But because I'm not actually telling you the state of your ship, you can't tell. So that's going to have to wait a week or two. Right now, I'm just trying to get a feel for what feels good when assembling a ship. Because it's really easy to make a crappy way to assemble a ship. In fact, you're probably playing one. But that's been one of the problems I've had with Steam recently. There's all these games about constructing spaceships, and they're all these really, really clunky voxel editors. And they're just the worst. I want something that feels faster and more fun. So, I don't see any indication that it's actually happening. Interesting. Hmm. So this camera control isn't even getting called. It should be. Hmm. Why isn't it being called at all? There's something screwy going on with the camera here. So this camera control highlighted orbit is the control schema, but why isn't the control schema activating properly? I've got the camera control enabled. There's something preventing it? This is odd. There was nothing preventing it before. Hmm. So here is where the camera schema gets updated. If camera schema does not equal null, then update. Let's go ahead and add in debug.log cam scheme not null. Else null. Let's just go ahead and see what it is failing at. Hey guard, I released a prototype today. Feel free to play it and tell me whether or not you like it or hate it, what you think is good or bad, whether it runs or breaks. Let's go ahead and pull up paste it in chat again. So, if we take a look here, it says cam scheme is null. This one that's clearly not null is null? I see, I see. So, there's the problem. Okay, that resolves that. Name plus camera schema is null. No, it doesn't support VR, although VR is not too difficult to put into a Unity game like this. It's just well into the future, I think. Alright, so let's see whether or not that works. Alright, well, we've definitely got some rotation happening. The y-axis is reversed wrong, but that's something I can deal with. So rotating around our camera dot up is definitely not going to work. It has to rotate around global up, or maybe our camera up local orthogonal, closest orthogonal. We do have a closest orthogonal function. Let's just make it around global up at the moment. All right, there we are. Y-axis is still a little screwed. What's going on? Why is it? That's not... So it should be rotating correctly, but we're getting some weird performance on it. It's not working right, which is odd. This is very basic, so let's try this one more time here. See how if I move just straight left, it goes up. If I move right, it goes down. And moving vertically doesn't do anything. I bet I know what the problem is. Yeah, there it is. I am so smart. SMT. Better, better. All right. So, Jojo just says a problem with VR is keeping nausea down. I think doing VR with Orbit Cam would be good. I don't think so. I have never seen a way of keeping nausea down. VR makes me sick immediately for hours and hours and hours after I finish with it. So I seriously doubt that Orbit Cam will help much. But I like the idea of using those move controls or something similar to be able to actually reach out and grab the ship and rotate it rather than moving the camera. That would be pretty neat. But that would be an entirely different interface. So, all right, so let's go ahead and give this a shot proper. We're going to load up a ship like the Hansi here. And in theory, we can highlight it and move it around. Okay, so what we need to do is make it so that when we highlight it, it's gonna do a little bit more than that. Let's go ahead and do that. Protected, transform, target, get, return, target, set. So what we're going to want to do is move ourselves to this new location as a coordinate that we want to fit. We don't have to do it like this. We can just do it by lerping. Lerpa, lerpa, lerpa. So we'll just say t dot position equals t dot vector3 dot lerp t.position, comma, or maybe vector3.move to would be better. T.position, comma, target.position, comma, max float max distance delta time.delta time times 10. Now the problem here is if there is no target. If target does not equal null, then you can do this, otherwise you can't. Thinker says, would you like a skybox specifically for building mode, some kind of grid or the like for orientation? Yeah, what I really want for building mode is a backdrop that has very strong equator, some kind of ring or planetary orbital station or something that fills a big part of the equator so that you'll know absolutely for sure what is up and what is down. But I don't really have the resources to do that right now. Maticon says, do you think the predominant shooter genres will ever return to the days when verticality was an integral design element? Yeah. The problem, I think, is that the vertical elements got swoofed off into the kind of fantasy assassin games. And once those fantasy assassin games die out, we'll see them return back to the mainstream and back into other shooter games. The chest-high wall era is probably gonna have to die first, though, because that's verticality and chest-high walls are kind of opposites. In my mind, at least. So let's go ahead and pull up a ship. Boom, and shaboom. Oh, it's around the node rather than the center point. That's not. Bounding boxes are probably a better bet. I can't remember if bounds is a class or a struct. Struct. So we're going to say that if bounds.extents equals vector3.0, return target.position, else return bounds.center. I don't think we can get bounds off of this. What we have to do is get something which has bounds, which would be any kind of collider or mesh renderer. Be target.get component and children mesh renderer true, and then mr.bounds. There we are. If mr does not equal null, then we want bounds to equal mr.bounds. We can also look for a collider. Collider c equals target.get component in children collider true. No, that's not going to. There we are. If call does not equal null, then bounds equals call.bounds, else mesh renderer. There we are. That should be able to get us some bounding boxes, which will allow us to rotate around the center of objects rather than around their pivot, because their pivot is not going to be any good. Pink Air says shooters are based on shitty controller-based gameplay. Shitty controller-based gameplay is a serious problem these days, and I'm hoping that will fade a little bit, but it may get worse. Jojo Jet says, "Do you think that games have anything to do with games being? Do you think that flat games have anything to do with games being mainstream? I think it's easier to wrap your head around. I think that they do. I think that the reason that games are a little bit flat these days, at least action games, is because it's quite hard to aim precisely up and down with a controller. It's much easier and more natural to do it with a mouse. So I think that we have this era where verticality is limited to movement rather than to looking, and that means that you get these Assassin's Creed games where verticality is going up or going down, but it's not usually going to be looking up and watching out for enemies above you. I think that era needs a bit of. I really do want to blame consoles for almost everything because every time I play a game that's been made for the consoles, it ends up being shallower and stupider than it would have been otherwise. That was a weird typo. I don't think that console players are stupid or anything like that. What I think is that console players have a interface which requires a little bit of a blunt touch. Controllers have specific uses, but they're not very great at first-person shooting. So first-person shooters that use controllers have to be built around dealing with that. So in theory, the camera is now centered, but that's not the case at all, is it? It's centered at 0, 0, 0. But I'm just kind of talking while I think. I'm not really sure 100% about these things. I'm just assuming because not really stopping to think about it too much, and those are my opinions just in general. Sorry, I'm working at this programming while also trying to answer questions, and it's a little bit difficult to do both at once since both of them actually require quite a bit of brains. Yep, Jojo Jet. I do think that controllers work great for a lot of things, but I also think that interfaces are important to how you play games. I think that the touch interfaces that we're starting to see are going to be incredible once people figure out how they want to use them. Tilt Brush makes me very jealous. So it looks like the bounds got screwed up. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say bounds.extents equals vector3.0. I think Madcon is whispering to me. I'm not sure. I can't tell those things very easily. Destiny was apparently designed as at the ground up for consoles. Yeah. Things are being designed specifically for consoles, and it's not something I enjoy very much. I don't have any consoles, and I don't enjoy console gameplay nearly as much. So this is again at 0, 0, 0. Why is something forcing us to 0, 0, 0, or is it just misunderstanding? So let's go ahead and here's a It's not actually using the bounds. Target pause is what we want to be using. Linear Mango stopped by. Let's go ahead and inform him that I've released a new prototype. It's still pretty rough, but you can go play it and tell me whether or not you like it or hate it, if it runs or doesn't run, that sort of stuff. If target equals null, return wherever we are. So camera on a stick, T dot position. Yeah, I haven't played very much Destiny because it's not something that I enjoy. So let's load up a ship and see whether or not we can get this to work at some point. That would be super nice. So you can see that the center of our camera is kind of off in the middle of nowhere, and it's not reorienting properly. So there's something screwy going on here. It might be that when we right click, we lose the focus. No, it's still targeted. Debug.log. Orbital camera is highlighting, and then target. And Maticon says that he got ignored by Twitch. I have no idea, sorry. With a red planet. So it is properly announcing that it's highlighting the correct object, but it's not moving to the correct object. So that means that there's something wrong with the targeting system here. So yep, I think you're right. For some reason, somehow, console games sell more reliably than PC games. I think it's probably just due to the way that the market works. I would certainly love if we could get some decent PC games with console parts instead of being vice versa. So we do see some movement here, or at least some notification of movement. So it says that the target is being moved to -31, 9.6, and 12.1, which is where it currently is. So presumably what's happening is we're returning this. So target not set for orbital camera, just orbiting. But we should have a target because we're setting that target right here. And we're saying that it is targeting something. Then we're getting the bounds. Then down here, we're saying if there's a target, then move towards the target position. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of problems with PC gaming, not least of which is that the the kind of meathead jock stereotype of a console gamer is actually substantially nicer and more likely to help and be and support a dev than the average PC game stereotype. So developing for a console is generally easier, and I think that's probably why we see so many crappy PC ports these days. So we're highlighting the cockpit, and we're still not, we're just moving. No target set. So how come the target gets unset? Do I have a fucking hell. I got a local variable named target. Arost says, hello. I made something, Arost. Go play it and tell me whether it works. Capillara says, why is your editor yellow? I downplay it when we're in play mode because otherwise it's easy to forget that you're in play mode. People ask, I've been mumbling a lot just off the top of my head while I work on code, so I have no idea what I've been saying. And I'm sorry that I haven't been paying enough attention. Hopefully, some of you folks haven't been too offended. Ross says, crowded today? Not too bad. It's more that I'm thinking really hard about camera code, which is my weakest point. So whenever someone asks me a question like, what do you think the trends in FPS gaming are going to be? I'm like, oh, I'll just say whatever the heck comes out of my mouth. Oh. I'm going to change the... Linear Mango says it works. Good to hear. I'm right now building a camera that I think will work better. So right now what happens is you have an orbital camera, or the newest version rather. You have this orbital camera, but whatever you click on becomes the new center for your orbital camera, see? And I think that this is gonna be okay. I think this is gonna feel pretty decent. Because the problem with the orbital camera was that you couldn't actually figure out where the center of your orbit was going to be. And it could be off in the middle of nowhere for all you knew. But by making it orbit around a specific target that you've highlighted, that problem goes away. What do you guys think? Seem like a good idea? Obviously, the sensitivity needs to be set up properly, but overall, do you think it's a good idea? Matacon is still talking about first-person shooters. I haven't really been involved in the first-person shooter genre much, because my reflexes aren't very good anymore, and most of the shooter games these days are pretty reflex-heavy. There have been some that aren't reflex-heavy, but they've universally been on consoles, and I don't own any consoles. Linear Mongo says, give both options. Both options is complexity I'm hoping to avoid. I think this is just flat-out better. Like a lot better. It feels a lot better. I'm going to go ahead and pump up the, or pump in the settings that we had for our other player control setup. And we're going to have some fun. Yeah, that's all right. Good. So we don't have all of these settings. We don't have a forward speed. All we've got is the mouse sensitivity X and Y and the inversions. We can also have zoom sensitivity. There we go. Aras says he's also getting old. Maticon says there used to be a several-story tall elevator room that got cut because it was too annoying, apparently. Well, you can build verticality that's really hard to play with, annoying verticality. So it might have just been something that was hard to play, regardless of whether the players could or couldn't. Guard says, what was meant by both options? I think he means a free camera and an orbital camera. That's what I assumed he meant. Linear Mongo says that he likes free flying. I don't have any problem with the free flight, but it's hard to design a ship while in free flight. And the reason I went to free flight from orbital is because I couldn't get orbital to work reliably. But this allows orbital to work reliably. So I kind of think that this is just a better set of options, and I'm tempted to just go ahead and use this. I can make switching the camera as possible, but it would be a little bit of an annoyance. Oh, I forgot to actually implement it. Hold on. We're also going to go ahead and create the scaling in and out. So x equals input.get axis mouse scroll wheel. I think it's mouse scroll wheel. If x does not equal 0, then x times equals, what was it called? Zoom sensitivity. Ah! It looks like several people are starting to agree with Jojo Jet. Go ahead and keep watching for a little bit, and if you still think the Orbit Cam looks bad once I'm done implementing it, let me know, because I honestly think it's going to be about 10 times better. So we're going to go ahead and make our camera automatically adjust the range to be proper. So, what's it called? The camera on a stick. Manual camera range update on a stick. Camera on a stick dot ship arm. I believe that's what we want to adjust. We might have to change this later. Dot position, local position, equals vector3.lerp camera on a stick dot ship arm dot local position, comma new vector3 0 0 and negative camera range time dot delta time. Rather than lerping, let's go ahead and do a move towards times 10. All right, let's give this a shot. So if we pull up a ship, like say the Slugger here, we can click on anything we want and rotate around it fairly easily. That might be a little bit of a fast snap. I can adjust that later. You can also use the mouse wheel to... Okay, so right now we have to be holding down the left mouse button to do it. And it's also really, really sluggish. So let's go ahead and fix that. So a couple of details. Slow this down and move this out to here. This, we will go ahead and lerp it after all. Here's the Slugger again. Yeah, starting to Starting to feel decent. Oh, X is inverted on this. It's also still too slow. So yeah, that's the whole reason I haven't changed the name guard, because camera on a stick is kind of fun. Although all of the functionality of the camera on a stick has to be changed. Literally every component of it is now obsolete. But the basic idea is fairly good. So there are a couple of other things I would like to do. And one of those is I think that we should adjust the ground plane so that it automatically locks to whatever highlighted object you've used, but I might wait on that. Oh, random floating thing. So let's say that we wanted to substantially build out this ship some more. And so we wanted to put in... Let's go ahead and just start over. We'll build a new ship. Oh, this is not the same version that I shipped to you guys. That's fine. Get it? Ship. So if we were to put in a cockpit, you'd then rotate around the cockpit, get an angle from above like this. You could put in some hab rooms. So how about straight? And then some actor. Okay, just zoom on over. How about a heavy mount? This, put it here. Stick on something over there, like, say, a tank. How about a giant ice tank? No, that's the small one. It's also the small one. Here's the big. I need to have icons here. They're just too annoying to use without icons. Okay, so I have to figure out, I have to get used to this. This is a very different feel. But I think it's probably a better one. Yep, Arost, that is the idea. The whole idea was originally built around orbital cams as our primary means of looking around. I just couldn't get it to work, and I hadn't finished dismantling it, and now I'm remantling it. So it's a little bit funky, but it still works, and it's still set up properly. The only issue is that right now you can't use WSAD to look around and get a better view on the things that you want to use. So I have to figure out if I want to allow people to use WSAD to still move the camera or what. I haven't really decided. I don't think I do. I think that this might be better. Although anyone who's using it today will probably get really annoyed by the fact that they can no longer move around using WSAD. I need to also fix this up so that it's a little bit more natural. Oh, god damn it. Oh, I'm doing an orbital cam. I gotta get used to it now. JoJoJet seems to like the new camera, at least in theory. I'm a little bit conflicted as to whether to upload the new camera build today or wait a little bit longer. There are a couple of bugs I'd like to fix, or some FOV scaler to put in and stuff like that. But this is such a fundamental change, it feels weird to allow people to play with a camera that's just flat out not going to work for any length of time. That seems like a terrible idea. Let me go ahead and build a version that has the new camera. I don't know. What do you guys think? I have no idea what you said, Erost. It's got too many stars. Jojo Jet says, what if you could hold down a direction WSAD sort of peak? That's not a bad idea. I'm thinking about the modularity, the modality of this stuff. Because what if WSAD did something else entirely? So if WSAD isn't being used for the camera, then it can be used to rotate things without holding shift. There's a lot of details as to how you can implement this and what you want it to do. This is so fundamentally a change of the game, it's almost impossible to even conceive of the two ever being different options on the same game. They are radically different. Well, let's go ahead and open up the help panel. Make it edit the correct things again. Hurrah! It could just let you peek like in Mario games. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure yet. There's an interesting bit of text. What the best options are. I have to visualize it a little bit. Can't I get the help panel to actually select things? It's better. So right now, this sensitivity actually is being applied against nothing. It's broken. So we're going to go ahead and drop it in. Apply it against the new thing. Let's drop this in and apply it against the new thing. This in. Apply it against the new thing. The forward speed and panning speed we don't need anymore. Although I am curious about that damage there. So we're going to delete 2 of these, and then we're just going to have this one be set up to handle camera FOV. So to make it do camera FOV, we're going to pass it the universe cam and the ship cam and the interior cam. I guess just the ship cam and the interior cam. Aspect, depth, field of... There it is. What's the normal range for a field of view? Like, what's the default? I don't actually know. Take a look here, and the FOV is set to 30. That seems low. So we'll go ahead and take it from, say, 10 to 120. Should be fine. Oh, the text in Unity is notorious. I wouldn't worry about it. We don't even need the highlight cam anymore. It's not used for anything. Max 150? I don't care what the maxes are. I don't use these things. The only reason I set it the way it's set right now is because I needed to try and keep things in focus when I was playing with the depth of field effects. Well, it's very easy for me to implement sliders like these, so there's no reason for me to worry. I'm happy to let you slide the sliders as much as you need. So if you take a look, this is what it looks like at 30 FOV. And if we start to bring the FOV, you can see how radically that changes the size. If you're doing depth of field stuff, then FOV becomes even more important. So zoom way in, and you get this really distorted view of the ship. Highlight camera, apparently not optional. Fortunately, I think that we probably ended up breaking it. Or does it just run constantly in the background? Let's find out. Okay, so that worked. Don't think we technically need it, but I'd have to recalibrate things in order to make it otherwise. So the next thing we need to do is take the help, say that it's on by default. And I think that's all we needed to do, except change our wording here. So movement, hold right mouse to orbit highlighted component. Use mouse wheel to zoom in. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. So let's go ahead and upload a new build. Yeah, I have lots of unhelpful help screens. You'd be shocked at how many unhelpful help screens I've got. Uploading a new version of the prototype with a fun new camera control schema. All right, it's built. Go ahead and copy it into the correct folder. Delete the old and the new. Boom. So, close that down. Pull up a ship. Oh, that's right. I got a copy in the file. The file doesn't get copied. This one file doesn't get copied in when everything else does. Load ship. Still nothing. Interesting. Oh, I put it in the wrong direction. Because I'm an idiot. Yay! Although that is not the correct file anymore. Might as well go and grab the correct file here. In assets, resources, user data, default.txt. That's the place. To here, paste, place, and here, paste. Anyway, text files not getting baked in is actually the whole reason I'm using text files, so I'm not surprised by this. All right, now let's try it. So let's take a look. Load the ships. We got a couple of ships in the list here. We can click and rotate around them in any way we please. All right. Let's go ahead and upload this. So delete the old zip file and create a new zip file. .31 megs. Go over to itch.io page, hit edit game. Zoom. Let's upload a new file. It's a galactic line. Too far. There we go. Hopefully that will replace the old galactic line construction kit. And you guys can all give it a shot. But give me a second here. It's not quite done. I'll have to record a new video. I'll do that once I'm done with this session. And new video will showcase the new orbital camera. Alright, so the galactic line construction kit is now the only one available. Hurrah! So if you guys want to go over and download the new kit, you can tell me whether or not the new camera works for you, or if you hate it with all the fury of 1,000 suns. And I'll go post it to Twitter. New construction prototype has a new camera control. Try it and tell me if you like it. Hashtag IndieDev. Hashtag GameDev. Hashtag worst Christmas ever. Oh, it's a joke. Too old. Alright, let's see if anybody said anything. Guard wants to edit my response out. Feel free. I don't know what I said, but you're welcome to use it. JojoJet says, couldn't you use streaming assets to get Unity to automatically copy over the file? Yep, I could, and I will in the long run, but there's no reason to set that shit up before I've even got the scaffold in place to use multiple files. Guard wants the old versions of my prototypes. They're really not very good, Guard. It was a piloting prototype that you can see in the demo there. And I mean, I can give as many people as want access to it. But I don't know if I have them saved anywhere other than the Galactic Line page where I've got them hidden. Yeah, so the prototypes I'm currently hiding are the quick character randomization demo, the flight prototype, the UI prototype, and the other flight prototype. I'm not sure why I have two flight prototypes. But since one is only 19 megs and the other is 80 megs, I have a feeling I know which one is the right one. I don't want to turn them back on. Oh, I have a comment. I got followed by somebody. I'd have to upload them to my personal server, and that would be kind of annoying, Guard. So I'll go ahead and do that. If you stop by on Wednesday or next Saturday, it'll be available for you. Alternately, you can wait for 2 or 3 weeks, and this will be a flight prototype. I'll be using the exact same flight interface. The flight interface was very nice. I liked it quite a lot. And it will work fine as is. Yeah, that's definitely true, JojoJet. All right, Guard, that would be easiest on me. I didn't realize how hard it would be to make a prototype that's actually still saved on itch.io, only available via a link. Because apparently, you can make games available via a link, but in order to make specific files available via a link, You have to do all sorts of weird shit involving setting up a pseudo payment system, and I don't really want to do that. So I'm not going to. Oh, maybe I can just give a direct link. Let me go ahead and see whether I can give a direct link. Go over to the line proper. And we tell it to download the specific... Oh, it's JavaScript. Hmm. No, it's not set up to help me do that. Sorry. Any of you got the new system running yet and can tell me that it works or doesn't work for you? That it's fun or not fun? Should have probably checked and made sure it was working before I uploaded it. But it should be. Yeah, it's working fine. It's working great. Now, the only problem is that this camera controller doesn't actually work when they're in interior view. I'll have to try and fix that up later. That's fine. Let's go ahead and see whether or not we can build a ship using this system. So let's go ahead and use the small ships. The small ships are the way to go here. Oh, I had an error. Interesting. I wonder whether I compiled a version that has the Corvette's manifest phantom loaded. That would be obnoxious, but at least if I do it now, I'll know that it can happen and avoid doing it in the future. So if we put on a fuel cell, where's our fuel cell? Just rotate it up. Yeah, like this. So the real problem here is that the scale, the meter to meter editing, is actually very chunky for this scale of ship. This scale of ship is kind of small. Oh, I don't want the fuel cell. So small that you really need to have a half meter or a quarter meter grid. There it is, the battery. Put on a fuel tank. Drop in some rockets. Those rockets are nice. I forgot that they look like that. That's really nice. I should make all of my rockets look like that. And then let's go ahead and staple on some really big cargo containers. To the bottom. There we are. What a wonderfully balanced ship. Oh, I just closed it. Didn't mean to do that. Hold on. Guard fucked it up. But then got it fixed. JoJo says, is it intentional that the camera only lerps to the selected ship component when you're rotating it? Yeah, I figured that would be better than having it constantly shoot around as you're just mousing across the ship. But if you think the opposite might be better, it's not hard to build that in. Specifically, when you right-click, it focuses the camera on that target. If you were just mousing across the screen, and it would automatically highlight targets like that, then your camera would constantly be shifting along with your mouse, and you would have to try and figure out the fact that your cursor would be drifting while your mouse is also moving. That seemed like it would be too much. I really don't think it should. I mean, I can show you what that looks like, and you're not going to like it. A guard says, I mean that the highlight should happen when you right-click a part to select it. Doesn't that already happen? Do you mean it shouldn't glow blue until you tell the camera to orbit around it, but then you won't be able to click on it to pick it up or clone it? Or at least you won't be able to tell what's happening. Okay, so never mind. If you don't want to see it, I'll just delete this. But I'm afraid I don't know precisely what you're talking about, which is no surprise because my ability to do camera stuff is quite bad. Oh, did I forget to save this with the new setup? I did. I am just the most brilliant person. Okay, so Guard says, Guard says, I mean that the lerp should happen when you have selected the part. Isn't that what's going on here? It doesn't auto lerp. Isn't that what's happening? Are you seeing something different than what I'm seeing? Because what I'm seeing is when you right click, you lerp to a part. What is the behavior you want instead, or are suggesting instead? Well, I'm always holding down the right click, so I guess I never thought about it. If you only tap right click, you kind of just move a little bit towards the part. Are you saying you'd like it to coast to the location of the part when you just tap right click? That might be a good idea. Let's go ahead and see how that looks. Oh, I bet I know what the error is. This is important. This is why it's so great to have testers, because obviously I always hold the right click when I'm doing something, so it never even occurred to me that you guys might. So that's what you wanted there? This kind of lerping as soon as you right click? All right, well, let me go ahead and upload this version then, because that's a pretty substantial fix. But you know, I think I want to go ahead and save the new ship build. There's a ship that's misbuilt, and I didn't notice it until now. So I'd like to fix that build before I go and do any sort of actual... Oh, it's built. It's fixed. Is it a different ship, or did I fix it? I didn't fix it. I know I didn't. There it is. That's the broken ship. So what we're going to do is put in the straight is... That's it. And we'll bring this down like so. That's it. Tab and hit save. Right. I'm going to build. So Unity still has this bug where if you try and build something that already exists, it'll break. Fortunately, I've got it set up so that it doesn't matter. It should be fine. Yeah, that's fine. JojoJet asks, would it be possible to interpolate on a Bezier curve instead of linearly? It would feel a bit nicer. Sort of. That would take actual coding. Right now, I don't keep track of where you were. I only keep track of where you're going. So the closest I could do without any further adjustment is I could ramp up and down the maximum length. Let me go ahead and put this build up, and then I'll think about better ways to handle the system. But first, I need to copy in the fixed file. There we go. Delete the old one. Go. Hold on a second, guys. I'm trying to upload something, so if you chat, I'm missing a lot of the chat. If you'll give me a second, I'll upload this new version, and then get back to the chat. Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So now the new version of the Galactic Line construction kit should be available with the instant lerping. Now let's go back over to Twitch and see what people have been saying. Can you explain how to place the 3-meter power element? So presumably you're talking about the 3-meter power element in here. This guy? It's bogged out. Broken. You can't place it. Sorry. I forgot to delete a broken element. The 4-meter power core is what you're supposed to use. But it looks like I screwed up and gave you a broken object. Sorry. If you're feeling annoyed enough at the fact that if you're feeling annoyed enough at the lack of a 3-meter power element that you're saying, damn, that makes me feel happy because it means that you care enough about your ship that you have a part that you really want. It looks like I just set it up wrong. I'm sorry about that. The 3-meter things didn't really get very well tested. It looks like all of the 3-meter things might be buggy. I wonder why. I mean, they're there. But they're not appearing. It's because they're not on the ship scale. I'm gonna get really annoyed. Oh, for fuck's sake. All right, I can fix that and upload a fix. Give me a moment. Check the fast here. And we'll just double check and make sure that it works. Yep, I'm on it. There we are. That works. All right. So we're going to unload these guys, and then we're going to build a new version. Hurrah! And I'll upload this in a moment. Don't forget you can save your ship, but if you unpack this new kit, it's going to overwrite that file, just so you're aware. Delete, 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 delete. Oh, don't. Paste. And add to zip. Yep, don't worry, Guard. Those are valid. I am going to be allowing people to recolor their parts pretty frequently. I already have it sort of set up in that they have shared materials that you can recolor, but I don't have any interface that allows you to do that recoloring. Lusher XX says, where are you testing it to? Can we test? Where are you uploading it to? Can we test it? The answer is yes, you can absolutely test it. Let me grab the link for you. Doop. Because I would love to hear your feedback, what you like and what you don't. It's here. All right, so I think that should work and be perfect. Let's just double check. After I've uploaded it and overwritten the old version, let's make sure it works. Yep, there it is. That 3-meter power core that you wanted is now visible and available. The only problem is I forgot to set the layers properly. So it was in the universe, but it was showing up as a planet. So, not the most useful thing. So the whole idea of these 3-meter and 4-meter sections should be to allow you to create a really nice 60s ship. And it's fun to work with. For example, we could come out with some cladding like, cladding like this. And then do some 3-meter straights. Put in cap. And you can fill this in with all of your variety of wonderful little toys. So just so you're aware, whoever that was that just joined the chat, Lusher XX, just so you're aware, the tutorial video is a little out of date. So it might be better to read the pop-up. Tutukas says, what are you making? I am making a construction kit at the moment. It's going to be a full-blown game eventually. So go play it and tell me whether or not you can figure it out and use it. Yeah, I should have fixed all of the 3-meter parts. Yeah, they're all fixed. Goodbye, Jojo Jet. Have fun. Yeah, some of these parts are untested and haven't really been integrated in yet. So it's definitely fun to build your own ships. Yeah, the small cube when you're placing a part is intentional, but I don't know if it's the right solution. Just so you can tell where the pivot is. Lusher says he's been following around with no problem. That's good. Yeah, it's an attachment reference. That's exactly it. It's visible with all parts. It's just sometimes inside of the part, and it doesn't show through because that would be unnecessarily distracting. So here we have a 3-meter part. We can just nestle it right in. How about a 4 3-meter fuel cap? Where is our tapered fuel tank? Tapered fuel tank. That's interesting. Do I have everything rotated slightly? No. Yes, I do. Okay. Over there for a second. I really need to fix the colliders. And I'm sorry in advance that the colliders are, they're all boxes and they shouldn't be. That was kind of shitty of me. Oh, look at that! You can't actually build this goddamn ship right. Because it's built on 45-degree angles, and right now I've got the snapping set to 30. Oh, oh, that is awful of me. I set it up so that you can't build it correctly. What a dork. So guard would like the pivot indicator to be less annoying. And Craig would like to put in a function to allow you to decide exactly how many degrees you get per rotation, which is not hard at all. All we have to do is duplicate one of these guys and set it up. So, put it above. This is the rotation. What is it called? Rotation snapping. At 15 degrees is a little bit too little when you're having to tap W, S, A, or D for every single time you want to rotate it. Because then if you want to rotate it by 90 degrees, you've got to like hit it 6 times. That would be really obnoxious. It makes more sense to me to have the rotation snap be a slider that you can set. So that's what I'm going to do. Just let me finish setting it up here, and we won't have any issues. So it says whole numbers. Can I set this up to be... Can I set this up to snap to something a lot more chunky than that? I want it to snap to every 15. I don't want it to snap to integers. Give me a second here. So here's the exterior construction controller with the angle snap. But the angle snap actually doesn't have a getter or setter, so we can't use a direct event to set it up. What we can do is set up the angle snap to take an argument. So public float set angle snap quantity, or set angle snap multiple, and we will just take in an arbitrary integer value here. It'll be a float, but float multiple of 15. Angle snap equals multiple of 15 times 15. Easy enough. Go over here and we set this up is to run from 1 to 6, up as 2 by default. Then we set it up to call against the set angle snap. Play. Set this rotation snap to 5. It's actually really annoying. Can't tell what the value is. I mean, it works in some ways because it actually functions. Yeah, that's 45. So it works, but there's no value indicator. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up text box. And 30. Now, unfortunately, there's no way to set this text up without using another function, so we'll call it 15 times. Just to make this happen fast, we'll go ahead and set this up like this. Fortunately, can't do it. So I would need a specialized callback function to set this text up if I wanted to do it like this. Maybe it should be a text input that gets turned into a float. That might be best. Let's go ahead and delete this. Get into a text input. It's to be big text input. It's kind of obnoxious. Look how big it is. I think I can probably get it to be smaller. Try. Or I can just make the... It's better. Placeholder. Text will be whatever you put into it. Input field. Go ahead and call against that function, but this function is going to take set angle string snap. So hold on, I got some comments here. Do you have any advice on how and where to start learning coding with C#? Not really. There are a lot of questions. Like, if you already know how to code and you're just trying to pick it up as a language, that's very different from I don't know how to code at all, but I want to start with C#. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and angle snap dot split space. Or just really, we just want the first number elements. Angle snap dot. We just go ahead and let that. So int val equals int dot tryparse, or bool okay equals int dot tryparse val and angle snap. If okay, then this dot angle snap equals snap. Else, don't do anything. It's fine. Now, right now, we don't have any particular way to tell the player that something stupid happened, so we'll just put in a to-do. To-do, tell the player they screwed up. So now we'll go ahead and set this up. Didn't I make this work? Oh, I have an error in the parsing, don't I? Cannot convert type string to float. Oh. Yeah. Let's see if that worked. Seems to. Yep. Yep. All right. So that'll work. Sort of. There's no error catching on it, though. Well, let's, do you guys want that? Want the rotation snap as an option? I think that probably is for the best. Yep, works fine. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save that and upload it. We'll have a version with angle snapping. How does that sound? It's going to take another 10 or 15 seconds, but then you'll be able to grab it. Guard sent me a link to his created ship, and it's this massive, sprawling, space station-like monster. All right, so now there is a construction kit with angle snapping if you wanted that 45-degree angle snap. Or N-degree angle snap. Whatever kind of angle snapping you want. All right, anybody want to ask any questions or anything? I think I'm done developing for the day. I'm hoping that everyone can try it out and tell me what they think. And send me some screenshots if you build a ship, and I'll try and make it better and better. I'm going to pay attention to chat for a while, but my voice is starting to go because I've been shouting for 2 hours. Thanks for stopping by, everybody, and I'll be back on Wednesday or next Saturday with more progress on this prototype until I turn it into a real game, hopefully.